Salute. What's happening? You know who it is. It's Nocturnal. Real quick video, and I'm getting out the way. I just wanted to talk about TSZYU, Costa Zoo's son. Made a big statement defeating Tony Harrison, and now the big question is, how is he going to do against Jamil Charlo? We know Jamil Charlo and Tony Harrison super bad. You know what I'm saying? They had two showdowns. One where Tony came out victorious, in the second fight where he was knocked out by Jamil Charlo. You know what I'm saying? Now TSZYU knocks out Tony Harrison in a similar fashion. Originally, TSZYU was supposed to fight Charlo. Charlo suffered a head injury, right? And they brought in Tony Harrison, which was a great choice as a replacement. Tony Harrison, he lost his father. Rest in peace to his father. He came back and had a fight. Wasn't at his, wasn't 100%. And he had another fight that he did a little bit better in. You know what I'm saying? He showed a little bit more flash of or signs of the old Tony Harrison coming back. And I remember even listening to interviews with Alicia Baumgardner from Brian Custer. Alicia Baumgardner just, became a champion, beating Michaela Mayer, and she had another fight she was victorious in, and she's been getting trained by Tony Harrison. And Brian Custer asked Alicia Baumgardner, is super bad Tony Harrison still super bad? Is he elite or is he obsolete? And she said, as long as he has that jab, he's still going to always be super bad Tony Harrison. So the thing is, Tony Harrison being elite was kind of already in question if he was still at that peak or pinnacle, or if he was still the same person that won against Jamil Charlo. And we've seen him get knocked out before previously against Willie Nelson. We've seen him get knocked out before by Swift, Jarrett Herb, and we've seen him have a close fight that he won against Jamil Charlo, even though to me he was, in some dangerous territories, dangerous situations at the end of that fight. I felt like he was right there on the verge of being knocked out, but he got the decision. And in a rematch, which was postponed due to like a ankle injury, Jamil Charlo fought Jorge Cota in the meantime and knocked him out. Then they had their showdown, and Tony Harrison got knocked down in the second round, came back pretty strong, was starting to turn the tides of the fight, and ended up getting knocked out in the 11th round after a little bit of showboating against Jamil Charlo. So I still looked at Tony Harrison to be elite, depending. I know like it's hard for anybody to wear two hats like that, to perform at an elite level in boxing and then be dedicated to training someone to be at that elite level. I felt like that was in it of itself going to be a difficult task. I also felt like Tony Harrison might have been overlooking TSZYU and only focusing on Jamil Charlo. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was his main goal. Like, I'm fighting just to get my rematch with Jamil Charlo, and then I'm out the game. He didn't sound like he was in the best shape in the world. He said training with Alicia Baumgardner started to give him back some vigor and bring him back into where he used to be condition-wise and training-wise and running. But before that, it sounded like he was kind of, in a dark place somewhat, going through a storm, and coming out strong at the end of the day. But he was going through a storm. He said he stopped drinking, stopped partying, stopped hanging out, stopped, BS, and he really started getting back into that training mode, into the beast mode. Plus, he's a little older. So when I say all these things, I say these things not to take away from TSZYU's victory. It's just to put things into perspective for me to gauge what TSZYU would look like against Jamil Charlo, because I'm not so familiar with TSZYU. I would have said going into this fight, not to be a Monday morning quarterback, but I would say in this fight, to me, I feel like Tony Harrison should be a superior boxer. But if he fades down the stretch like he has before in the past, or if his chin gets hit with a good shot, with a good shot, excuse me, like it has in the past, then most likely Tim TSZYU, if he has any kind of power to his punch and he can fight down the stretch, he might be able to pull out a victorious win. You know what I'm saying? So it was to no surprise that Tim TSZYU won, but to watch it and to see how it unfolded was a surprise, and I didn't see that coming. So I feel like Tim TSZYU has proven to me he's a better fighter than I thought he was. His punch selection, his power, his patience impressed me. I would say sometimes, even when he had Tony Harrison hurt, it took him a long time to line up Tony Harrison to drop that bomb. He was landing them and hurting Tony Harrison, but it just seemed like to me he still had a somewhat of a lot of time to get off some of those big punches. And Tony Harrison, you know, to me, he looked like he was declining. As of maybe a few years ago in his prime, he would have slipped those punches and been on the back foot and moving a little bit more. So I say that to say this: we know that Jamil Charlo makes adjustments in rematches against Tony Harrison, against Brian Castaño, but we also know that sometimes Jamil Charlo doesn't bring his absolute best to that first fight. In times, I felt like he did not understand that everything he needed to do to beat Tony Harrison that first fight. You know what I'm saying? He was right there on the brink. And in the first fight against Castaño, to me, he also didn't execute to his 100% full ability. Even though Derek James was telling him, you got to close out this fight, you got to do this, you got to do that, it still seemed like at times Jamil Charlo fought the wrong game plan. He made the adjustment and he came back and he won in a very impressive, dramatic fashion against Brian Castaño. But going into this fight with TSZYU, to me, potentially could have did the same thing. He could have slightly underestimated his opponent and had a closer fight than what needed to be. But now I feel like since TSZYU, Tim TSZYU, I always want to say TSZYU, so I say Tim TSZYU, but since Tim TSZYU has shown that he's a better fighter than what I was gauging, I'm sure that Derek James and Jamil Charlo are going to have the opportunity to recalibrate and make even a better game plan when this fight happens, where Jamil Charlo won't find himself in that familiar ground where he's, you know what I'm saying, making a fight closer or harder than it has to be. So with that being said, I think Tim TSZYU's highlight performance is going to be against Tony Harrison, which is a very credible win. And I think he did his fellow countrymen and his father proud if he fights Jamil Charlo, and Jamil Charlo comes with the same abilities that he brought against Jason Rosario and Tony Harrison in the second fight and Brian Castaño in the second fight. Then I feel like it's going to be a different situation for Tim TSZYU. I think he's going to, it's going to be just too much. You know what I'm saying? Just a little too much coming from Jamil Charlo. Even though we don't know, he hurt his hand too. He's been inactive for a little while. He hurt his hand. I don't know how he's going to heal, if he's going to be 100%, or if he could even possibly hurt his hand during a fight, which can change the outcome of it. So it still be, to me, let the best man win, and I lean towards Jamil Charlo. But you never know. Tim TSZYU, he you know, like I said, Monday morning quarterbacking, because I really didn't see it happening the way this happened. Like this was a brutal knockout. It was a TKO. Tony Harrison was on his feet at the end of this fight. Let that be known. A lot of respect for Tony Harrison. And with that said, I'm gonna leave it at that. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. What chances do y'all give Tim TSZYU against Jamil Charlo? Think Jamil Charlo going? I felt like Jamil Charlo was going to knock him out, similar to Brian Castaño. But now I'm thinking that fight's going to be a little tougher than what I thought originally. So we'll see what happens when it happens. Salute. I'm gone, man.